Bethesda is at the summit of incompetence. Yes, that's right. Turns out they are, in fact, the best at something. The only AAA gaming company that can't even make their microtransaction shop work properly. The only thing that they have to do is make a game and leave it alone and never touch it again. So more competent people, for free, fix it for them. And they can't even manage that much. But that is Bethesda, obviously. But you know what we forget about? You know what we don't talk enough about? It's IGN. That's right. IGN, the news agency that is pretty much the equivalent of a Bethesda, honestly. When was the last time you saw an IGN rate a game and you actually thought, wow, this is even remotely close to what I'm thinking? Yes, probably never. Ark Raiders, bad. Baldur's Gate 3, bad. Expedition 33, horrible. Some kind of woke slop like A Sound of Midnight, 11 out of 10. Best game ever, okay? And now IGN is proving that they are at the summit exactly like Bethesda by making this video. What Bethesda needs to learn from the Outer Worlds 2. My god. Actually, unironically thinking that the Outer Worlds 2 is a good game. It's already dead, and so is Obsidian.
In the grand tradition of playing the latest Obsidian game and thinking about how Bethesda would have done it worse or better, The Outer Worlds 2 has got me thinking a lot about its spacebound solo space sim sister from another studio, Starfield, which, as we all know, left a lot to be desired from various portions of the community.
We can't just tell.
So did Avowed. Honestly, if you're gonna say that The Outer Worlds 2 is better than Starfield, we're gonna maybe even have to defend Starfield a little.
Them kindly to bugger off.
Because at least in Starfield you had romance options with your companions. Extremely poor romance options. But it was better than what the Outer Worlds 2 did.
For some, it wasn't Bethesda enough. For others, it was too Bethesda. The mod scene is DOA, the first big DLC was rubbish. And while we're on the subject, where's the second one they teased about 500 years ago? Can DLC even begin to address the problems Starfield has, which are, fundamentally, that it's really tedious? Former Bethesda game designer Bruce Nesmith recently admitted that Starfield isn't as good as the studio's other universes of Elder Scrolls and Fallout, lamenting the game's over-reliance on
I mean, let's not brush ahead of ourselves. It's not like those games are actually good also.
procedurally generated content, and also, which I think got a
Now,
lot...
granted, they're a lot better than Starfield, but still, it's not like the rest of Bethesda's lineup is the most spectacular thing ever. A lot of people dislike Fallout 3, a lot of people dislike Fallout 4. There are so many reasons that people dislike modern-day Bethesda titles.
people's backs up, that space is inherently boring. The thing is, he's not wrong about that. We even call it space, because that's all it is, for trillions and trillions of miles. You might think it's a long way to...
I mean, is this just running defense for Bethesda at this point? Because it kind of feels like it, doesn't it? Let's be absolutely real. Is No Man's Sky making space boring? Don't think so. Don't think so.
the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Listen, genuinely, that is the defining problem for every game...
Ah, there you go. Suddenly everything becomes crystal clear.
designer
All the opinions just make sense. Everything makes sense now.
who has ever tackled space. How do you fill the unfillable? How do you make space exploration fun? How do you make space travel compelling? There is no correct approach, but the space adventure genre of video game, by and large, makes it work in the same way that its counterpart on television does, by reducing space travel itself to an inconvenience along the lines of intercity bus travel or pressing some buttons, and by filling every planet with more or less the same stuff, whether we're talking about procedurally generated video game content or on-location shooting in the woods near Vancouver. Space games have to make fundamental choices at the design stage about how much space stuff they actually want to do. No Man's Sky, for instance, goes all in on procedural generation, for better or worse, boasting a potential 18...
Judging by the numbers that No Man's Sky is getting, a lot better A lot better, yes. Undoubtedly 100 times better.
Quintillion planets getting spat out of its algorithmic guts. So that's some realistically vast space with realistically wide distances between realistically huge planets. But those planets don't orbit their suns. They don't have seasons. It doesn't have any realistic systems that govern the position of its celestial body.
Wait, I'm sorry. Does Starfield have those systems? Does the Elder Worlds have those systems? Does Avowed have those systems? What is this critique? I'm sorry, what is the point that we're trying to reach here? Because I'm missing it.
Or the flow of trade across its various civilizations. No Man's Sky is not a space sim, it's a crafting...
If you want space trade, then I guess Elite Dangerous works.
An inventory management game with immaculate sci-fi vibes, full of infinite resources to seek out and gather to your own ends. Not a space sim as such, but a stuff sim. Interplanetary travel in No Man's Sky.
What? This is extremely poor even by IGN standards. I'm not gonna lie, this is extremely poor even by their non-existing standards. I mean, the Bethesda of the news media is doing a bad job being Bethesda at this point. I don't even know what to say. None of this makes any sense. I am confused. What is the point? Well, because I'm pretty sure none of the games that we are comparing here are doing any of the things that he's saying. I'm so confused.
Sky is less a simulation and more an elaborate loading screen, achieved with a lot of trickery that's pretty obvious once you notice it. Not a diss, not a complaint. Trickery is how video games achieve basically anything complicated. It's an entire art form that relies on the same basic misdirection as...
And the people 20 years ago did it better than people now. Talentless is a problem.
Pretending to steal a toddler's nose. Oh, I've got your nose, wee man. Think that's a spaceship you're flying, do you silly Ever since the seminal Elite on 8-bit computers about 4,000 years ago, the broad type of game that No Man's Sky has always been a yardstick of video gaming's highest ambitions and hardest limitations. In the early days, the most desired and least achievable feature of the genre was the ability to get off the damn ship. Paradoxically, this is what I always wanted to do in a space sim when I was a kid. Just get out and walk around. 1993's Frontier Elite 2 from David Braben, which is still a ludicrously impressive piece of galactic simulation, allowed you to live another life in a speculative sci-fi future.
Wow, I have never even seen this. This looks kind of insane, huh?
As a jobbing sort of contractor, explorer, mercenary, bounty hunter, pirate, drug smuggler, petty criminal, chartered passenger shuttle, whatever you want, in a vast, hyper-detailed simulation of the Milky Way galaxy where you could actually land on planets, which was mind-blowing at the time. And it wasn't achieved with a convenient cutscene or a fade to white as you hit cloud cover like in that Star Wars Outlaws game, which I actually like a lot, but that's by the by. But in Frontier Elite 2, you could fly into...
Wait, I'm sorry, he said he likes Star Wars Outlaws? This is just getting worse by the minute. This is not video. This is slop taking form. Oh my god. We need to watch more IGN videos, honestly. They are garbage of the garbage.
Planet's atmosphere, jet around like an airplane, land, take off again, and speed off toward another entire planet that's...
Even Star Wars Outlaws thinks Star Wars Outlaws is a bad game.
Millions of miles away completely seamlessly, never once breaking out of that simulation. This still remains a vanishingly rare feature in the space genre over 30 years later, but what you can't do in Frontier Elite 2 is park up and go to Space McDonald's like you can in Starfield, which is...
Ah, yes, Chunks, the pinnacle of Bethesda's creativity. I am thrilled, I tell you, thrilled.
I think where Starfield actually shines by leveraging that Bethesda magic, that unique sense of inhabiting
Bethesda magic? We're 5 minutes in, I have no idea what we're even talking about. I'm so confused, none of this has made sense. I can't even say anything negative truly about it because there's nothing being said here. What? How did we get from nothing to Bethesda magic and space? What happened? What happened? I'm sorry, I'm so lost. I have no idea what's going even on here. Was I asleep? Did I just space out for 5 minutes? What? How did we even get here? People on crack make better decisions than this video.
In world where people drink tea and chat about the weather. Starfield brings a human factor to the space sim that's usually jarringly absent.
What human factor? All of these NPCs are boring, dull, and no one likes them. I have no idea what's human about Starfield.
From the game. It says a lot that the worst bit.
This heating. This is a good game because it has space McDonald's, but at home. What is this?
Of Starfield, the bits everyone hates, are the vast stretches of real estate populated by procedural generation, or in other words, the parts where the human factor is least involved. Convincingly sending a player to space in a video game is about as difficult as actually flying someone up there. Well, it's not really, but go with me on this, right? In both cases, there's copious amounts of energy.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of simple reasons why you could send someone up there.
And weird maths involved, and the nagging question of whether it's even worth the trouble. Games like that.
Wait, no, what on a physical? It's the future, and we have magical space drives that make it easy.
The Mass Effect trilogy and the Outer Worlds saga feature no direct spaceflight at all, but fling players into intriguing worlds of combat, politics, archaeology, and espionage in much the same way as their fantasy counterparts do, but with blinking control panels and alien.
Okay, wait.
Landscapes as a backdrop instead of, I don't know, castles and rivers full of discarded excrement. And they're all the better for it because instead of trying to answer questions like, how do we convincingly portray astronomical distances while the player is sat in the cockpit, they're answering more pertinent questions like, can I pump the blue NB Science Princess?
No one cares about astronomical distances. Most people have no idea what a light year stands for.
Yes, you can pump the blue NB Science Princess. I'm not saying that space flight, space exploration, landing on random planets and sniffing around, I'm not saying those things shouldn't ever be attempted. I guess I'm saying that a Starfield sequel...
I'm sorry, am I the only one who didn't understand what he's saying? What is this?
If one ever happens.
There's not 6 minutes and there's not a single coherent sentence that makes sense in my mind. Well, am I just stupid? Have I lost it?
Should be more stringent about its priorities. Push the Todd Howard sliders up and pull the David Braben sliders back down. And I'm not being facetious.
Who the hell is David Braben?
Here. Every studio that's tackled the space sim has started with the same basic ingredients and fiddled about with the sliders to get to their particular vision. That is always compromised in some way because you can't just do everything in a video game. It's like a video game in and of itself. You've got a finite amount of time and resources, and so you've got to decide where best to deploy them. And the choices you make early on in that process limit what you can do later on. What questions do you ask when you start making a space sim? Are we going to focus on combat or exploration? If we focus on exploration, are we talking about a wilderness of space?
Wait. Actually, wait a minute. Why are we talking about a space sim in the first place? Like, what does Starfield have to do with a space sim? The closest thing about a space sim to Starfield is the fact that it's NASA punk, and that literally means nothing. Todd Howard just made up a word that has no definition. It's not NASA nor it's punk. So what the hell are we even talking? What is space punk? Like, what kind of simulation are we talking about here? Also, I currently have no idea what the Outer Worlds has to do with this video.
Expand curiosities, or are we making planetfall? If we're landing on planets, what's the ratio of lonely sunsets on barren rocks versus bustling cities and interstellar civilization? Can we land anywhere on a planet or only in hand-designed, predetermined areas? Does this have multiplayer? What do we do about Earth? Do we just not have Earth? Do we contrive some in-universe reason why we can't go there? Do we try and actually depict Earth somehow with all of its buildings and people and different types of tree and individual portions of marmalade and complimentary hotel breakfasts? You've got to pick a lane. That's why No Man's Sky is a crafting and inventory management game with a sci-fi backdrop rather than an actual space sim with Newtonian flight physics and orbital modeling. That's why Elite Dangerous is interstellar truck simulator with a bit of dogfighting. That's why The Outer Worlds has nothing whatsoever to do with flying spaceships outside of cutscenes, and therefore isn't really a space sim at all. But it feels like with Starfield, Bethesda didn't really pick a lane. They kind of tried to do everything. And for my money, it's a noble effort. If you stick to the authored stuff, the main story and faction quests, the side content that is...
All of those things are bad. All of those main stories and side quests are stupid, okay? The side quests are like, what is the Terrormorph? Oh, the Terrormorph is actually the space slug that turns into the Terrormorph. Wow, who would have seen that coming? I know, right? And then you reanimate the Terrormorph's natural predator, which is like a thick-necked giraffe that doesn't move fast, or nobody even knows how that's the natural predator. Like, what is going on? Oh my lord.
Obviously being spat out of an objective generator is pretty good. It often feels like Skyrim in space, which is what we all wanted, right?
It doesn't feel like Skyrim at all.
Micro detail that makes Bethesda games so compelling, the mundane stuff that just makes the world come together. You can fling a sandwich down a hallway or steal a parsnip, eat at Denny's, wear a hat, whatever you want. Not to mention the shipbuilder, which is just an incredible standout.
Yeah, the shipbuilder. Wow, I'm so excited. Said literally like 5 people in the whole universe.
Feature that everyone loves for good reason. But Starfield also fancies itself a bit of Elite's gig economy and dogfighting, neither of which it does particularly well. It has a smattering of the No Man's Sky stuff, procedurally generated planet surfaces, land anywhere, gather resources with a mining laser, build bases, marvel at the local flora and fauna, but why? The game rarely gives you a reason to actually engage with any of those systems. They're just kind of there. Every time you land on a planet...
Okay, so the systems exist, and because they exist, they are good? What?
The game generates this massive square map with about 5 points of disinterest, or more or less the same 5 points of interest that you get wherever else you land on any other planet in the game. And the distance between those points of interest is comically large, to the point where the most requested quality of life update to the game turned out to be a Mako, a space car, a thing that everyone hated in Mass Effect but became blessed relief here because it cut out so much of Starfield's tedium. And Starfield knows.
It's not blessed relief. Most people don't like it. It's clunky, it's bad, it's...
that it's boring. That's why the bulk of its traversal is actually just the fast travel system. For all the time that's been spent on letting you fly the ship,
Yes, okay, so the traversal is bad because Bethesda's incompetent, so the loading screens are actually the good part of the game. That's what he just said! The loading screens are the good part of the game. You know what? I actually agree. Watching a loading screen do nothing is probably better than anything Bethesda has to offer.
Rarely actually have to do it, which flies in the face of Todd Howard's grand vision of a NASA-inspired space sim that we'd all find compelling because of the tactile equipment and the wonder of staring at edge-lit planets from orbit and thinking about Carl Sagan's pale blue dot monologue because, as ever, he's trying to relive his mid-20th century American youth via the power of Gamebryo. Can you imagine how baffled Carl Sagan would have been by Starfield? I don't know why this video game is so embarrassed to actually let me play it. The point is this: there's so much in Starfield that's completely worthless, from its core ideas to its vast empty spaces. There are premium add-ons that add everything from dungeons and crash sites to full-on faction quests, companions and DLC-sized expansions. There could be a lot more, but the modding community abandoned Starfield in droves after the base game turned out to
because the modding community is not a bunch of idiots.
Be such a damp squib. And it pains me because I still think Bethesda doing a space game is exactly what I want from this entire hobby, despite this hobbled first attempt. At the risk of sounding like Edge magazine in the 90s, I want to get out of the ship and talk to people. I want to go to the shop and buy a snazzy outfit. I want to read people's emails and steal their stuff. I want to break into cabins and rifle through suitcases on an enormous interstellar cruise ship full of rich arseholes. That mission was really cool, by the way. Now, I know that
It wasn't. It was lame and bad and poorly designed like everything else in this non-game. Man, IGN is just something special.
World's games and Starfield actually have very little in common.
With opinions like this, no wonder no one agrees with IGN. With opinions like this, yeah, they are the laughing stock for a good reason, valid. And This is like one of the 5 times we have seen even the Outer Worlds. Wait, this whole video has nothing to do with the Outer Worlds.
On some superficial similarities. They are and should be utterly distinct. But there's one thing I want Starfield 2 to take from Outer Worlds, and it's this. Confine the whole thing to one solar system, or a handful of solar systems. Cut all that empty space down to a few planets worth.
Yes. Make it smaller, because the Outer Worlds is the only thing that has ever decided to make the game small. Sad. Sad.
Solar systems are diverse places. The one we live in is everything from subterranean oceans of ice moons to the peaks of Mars.
Okay, I don't get to say this often enough, but I don't think this person has a soul.
Mountains, storms of liquid methane, cascading sheets of molten metal,
He's literally talking about No Man's Sky, and he said No Man's Sky is bad.
Called boots that sell deodorant, sandwiches, chewing gum, umbrellas, but not actual boots. You don't need 1,000 planets to compel me to explore. You need something worth exploring. That's why Hello Games is obviously betting that the No Man's Sky concept works just as
Oh, the light no fire thing, yeah, that's gonna be biz though.
as well on a single planet as it does on a quintillion. And you might think that the idea of a Starfield sequel being 1,000 times smaller than the original is a ludicrous proposition, because video game sequels have to...
They already did that! They made Shattered Space, which was worse. It was worse, but it was on one planet. It was worse though.
Be bigger and better every time, right? But Bethesda...
You literally come to the planet of people who hate outsiders because they're different, and in literally less than 3 fucking seconds, you are the chosen one! Why? No reason, by the way. No reason. You're just the chosen one. Deal with it.
Themselves have learnt this lesson before.
Even the original Starfield game made you the chosen one in only 5.
Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall boasted a procedurally generated world twice the size of the island of Great Britain, but there was nothing there more compelling than Swindon on a Tuesday afternoon. The game was enormous and therefore boring. And you could sit there and go, well, life in a quasi-medieval fantasy world probably would have been kind of a slog, horses aren't very fast, everyone's got diphtheria. Or you could go back to the drawing board and make Morrowind, a sequel to Daggerfall that was a decimal point of a percentage of the size, but 1 billion times more interesting. Because rather than being filled in with a computer
Okay, now we're just complete. This is why no one likes IGN. Wait, why does this have a link to Eurogamer? This is IGN. What? Why does IGN have a link to Eurogamer? I'm so confused. Anyway, yeah, this is as good as I would honestly expect anything from IGN to be. 10 out of 10. Oh, bye.